One word, and I consistently think it when I watch this Liverpool team at the moment. Instinct. It's what they lack right now. Welcome back to the Laurence McKenna channel. If you've not already subscribed, then sure, take a look around. If you don't like it, don't hit subscribe. But if you do like it, there's a button just down there, and we're growing at a fine rate. Before we start this video properly, let me just say Liverpool were lucky to get away with it tonight. I feel like the offside rule is crazy in the first place. It's really weirdly implemented. And Liverpool, despite obviously getting away with some offsides, were not trying to play it necessarily there. And I think the phase of the play had gone on and on and on. So lucky to get away with that, I think, this evening. Liverpool will be frustrated with the fact that they have to go back to another Molyneux game, another set of fixture pile-ups, not even halfway through the season in the Premier League yet. Really frustrating for Liverpool, not what they wanted at all. This Liverpool side drew 2-2 with Wolves, but really there are a lot of conclusions you can take from this game. Again, I feel like Liverpool's conclusions are a list after every game, not only because you can see where the squad have kind of been looking, but you can also see where the squad are developing towards. Now, in my last review, a lot of people were quite critical of the fact that I was finding just positives about the Liverpool team. And there are some negatives within the side. But I will start with one of the positive negatives, or one of the negative positives. Or I'll just start with this point, right? Liverpool under Klopp were always a side where he was encouraging them to be instinctive, to play from a place which, well, it never really seemed like they had to think. They were always a step ahead of the opposition. It always felt like it was the right thing to do in that moment. And most people would class that as instinct. When Klopp first came in at Liverpool, he said, we're not playing with this, we're playing with the stomach. But I think he really meant like that gut instinct decision that a lot of people feel that players want to make when they're out on the field. What gets the best out of a naturally, technically brilliant player anyway, and someone who trains a system week in, week out, is for them to be instinctive, right? Or at least that's what Klopp believes. And so with that, when Liverpool truly went to a few of their peaks, because there have really been a few peaks on the way up to what was, you know, the very peak of Liverpool. I'm not even really sure whether last season when Liverpool competed on all four fronts was really the peak for the side, but they were peak in some ways, and now it's peak in a different way. So the point is, they are a side that often likes to play with an instinct. And so a lot of the players within this side had passes that they knew would always be on, had people that they knew would always be in certain positions, and also instinct to look in certain places, not only when pressing, but also when trying to get a little pass through. And so in trying to turn over this side, in trying to integrate new shapes, new, I want to say players, but also just new positions within those players. So sort of Nunez isn't quite the Mane type. Gakpo isn't quite the Mane type. Luis Diaz isn't quite the Mane type. You know, lots of different people in lots of different positions. Even integrating Thiago was like sort of, for a little while. And even now, some people even criticize it. So what I'm saying is, within that, this Liverpool side often look a little disjointed because of that. You can see there is almost a tangible frustration about the team when you look at them, that they aren't able to play with that, what most people might describe as a flow state. Because whilst it might seem that, you know, Liverpool are tripping up over a lot of these sides that you would have said, hey, a peak Liverpool side should be beating Wolves in the FA Cup. And by the way, that was the strongest side that Liverpool can currently field, at least as far as I'm concerned. Maybe some people would swap out Henderson, but even then, I think Henderson gives something leader-wise. He was great in between the lines tonight. And I know there are a few passes that got away, or, you know, whatever you want to criticize about Henderson, but actually I felt there were a couple of times, more than a couple, like quite a few times, we could see the shape was very reliant on the midfield structure. And frankly, when Henderson plays with Fabinho and Thiago, I think Klopp enjoys it because there's a lot more midfield structure. But also, weirdly, Liverpool are trying to move on from that midfield structure. Anyway, the point is that within that, Liverpool are now trying to change this. And so they're not only doing it with personnel, they're also doing it with how they play the game. Liverpool can no longer play the way they played 3 years ago. Tactics have moved on, players have moved on, and you can't just put it down to this team is getting older, therefore they can't run as far. It's what I often term lazy analysis. And so when you've got these players that are very often, when they're playing at their best, are in flow state, when they're most relaxed, when they're most sort of focused on the game, not only will that apply to Liverpool in terms of, you know, playing a Wolves, it should also apply to Liverpool in terms of playing a Real Madrid. You know, pressure makes diamonds, but also just in those moments, the pressure shouldn't be the thing you're thinking about. It should be the natural flow of the game. Klopp was very good at getting that out of the players once the players understood the system. And weirdly, I went to quite a few games in the first Klopp season under at Liverpool, when he first came in, when it was the doubters, the believers era, when it was the era when there were still a few players that you could see weren't quite in that system, weren't quite what Klopp was looking for. And I'm weirdly reminded of that time, right? And I keep going back and going, why do we keep telling this team to play the same as they did those years ago? I get it, they were good in that era, but it's the same as saying, hey, play like the 99 United side. That football, whilst there will be some effective elements, as a whole, isn't the same as modern football. And so the speed that modern football goes, we can't tell Liverpool to play the way they did even 3 or even 4 years ago. Now, it might sound like an excuse. And it's like, you know, if you like the old Jay-Z, play the old albums. Sure, go back, watch those things. But there is also criticism with that, all right? Klopp and Pep and the whole backroom staff they are tripping their own players up by not only giving them a system that they have to now adapt to, they're also then saying, hey, we're playing this system, and if you suffer in it, it's your, you know, it's going to be on your shoulders. Essentially, that's why Trent Alexander-Arnold struggled for such a long time. It's why so many times we saw Van Dijk isolated on his own, because they weren't necessarily giving the correct support to the other centre-back when Trent Alexander-Arnold was pushing on. Liverpool seemed to have sort of worked out that rotation a little bit better at this point, although even then they got caught out by Wolves, and very often it does rely on Alisson. And then really the 2 goals that came from Wolves tonight were Alisson mistakes, and how rarely you can say that. I know a lot of people are going to focus in the media on, hey, Alisson's got a bit of a rick in him. Good one, Paul Merson. Throw out some more analysis. I look forward to it when you actually can. It's not a dig at Paul. All I'm saying is, like, there is just some lazy, boring punditry of Alisson's got a bit of a rick in him, so he's not the best goalkeeper in the world, mate. Great analysis, thanks for that. But yeah, there was a sort of, you know, it got past him this evening because he couldn't quite sort his feet out. David De Gea was watching that and thinking that was fantastic. And then the other pass was because of Wolves pressing, but also because Liverpool didn't play a wider player out there. They wanted to get the ball away quickly. And whilst you can blame a player, I don't really see the point in that. Like, Alisson is the best goalkeeper in the world. Then you've got the fact that this was Trent Alexander-Arnold's 250th game for Liverpool. Now, to play 250 games for any top-tier side, not least a top-tier side that is reaching one of its many modern peaks, is a huge achievement. He has been a stalwart within the team, and whilst there has been criticism of him throughout the years, there's also been huge elation that he's even in the side in the first place. Local lad, incredibly talented, but also, you know, 62 assists, I think he's on with that Nunez one now. So he's like, you know, he's up there with Steve McManaman and those kind of people. It was such a great natural moment between Trent and Nunez tonight. The first assist between Trent and Nunez, and Trent's only his 2nd assist of the whole season. Not that he hasn't been trying, but just the tactics haven't quite gotten there yet, and Liverpool haven't actually been that flowing to get him to that position. It was great, though. A really great finish from Nunez, very natural, wrong-footing the goalkeeper. I did slightly wonder whether a slightly more senior goalkeeper maybe wouldn't have moved in the same way, and so therefore that feels like a simple save. But it did wrong-foot the goalkeeper. It was a really silky touch from Nunez, and both first time, brilliant. Then Liverpool's 2nd goal, I mean, again, another great moment. Really down to Liverpool just being Liverpool again, which is what I think a lot of fans were looking forward to. They went in at 1-1 at half-time. And I did enjoy it a lot more in the second half when Liverpool did seem to be hunting in packs like they did in the old days. It's not about how far have they run. There is still intensity within the squad, but it's how much do they pass the eye test in terms of seeing the effort that they're putting in. No one's expecting them to sprint for the whole game, but there are times where you do wonder, you know, what is it that they're trying to achieve here? And then we get on to Cody Gakpo, right? Or Gakpo, yeah. At times it felt a little bit like he was getting in the way. At times it felt a little bit like he wasn't quite sure the position he was supposed to take up to support a Robertson or to support a Nunez. At one point he found himself sort of drifting around, and I think Liverpool players were kind of trying to tell him where to go. But then he also had a few times where he easily made it away from a few players. I really loved that. And he had a few times where you thought, oh, okay, I can see where this is going, and I can see why Liverpool wanted him. Of course, a debut in the FA Cup, you kind of want a goal in it. But he didn't get it, and, you know, you saved it for a later date, I guess. But you can see why they wanted him. You can see the great feet. You can see that weird, like, there's a couple of times where you see the hookup between Nunez and Salah, Nunez and Gakpo, Nunez and whoever else, and you can sort of see where Klopp and Pep sort of get their kicks out of these guys now. You're sort of seeing how much adaptability there is in there, how many different triggers there can be within a team. And what I mean by triggers is, someone tweeted, I think it was Amir tonight, tweeted, Amir tonight is not his name, but Amir is his name, tweeted, you can see why Liverpool, the idea was like, you can see why Liverpool miss Mane. And I agree that I don't necessarily think the team miss him in the way that it's like, God, I wish it was only Mane was back. I can't particularly see it being different if Mane was in the side, although obviously he's a brilliant player. What I think that you can see by that is, because this Liverpool team are so off it, you can see why they were so on it when Mane was in the team, the triggers that he had. And Mane was so key in as a Klopp player, not only because it was Mane, just because of how Liverpool executed. He was so much part of Liverpool's execution in the game. He triggered a lot of things like Firmino did when he was on the field, which is why when Firmino first came out of the team, this Liverpool side felt a little bit disjointed at times. There wasn't really much link up, and there wasn't really a natural player to play through the middle, and it didn't feel as good. Again, instinct. But Mane definitely was a trigger for certain players to run in certain positions, get the ball here, move there, and there's a goal or at least an opportunity there. And that really suited Mane and Salah because they're volume players. But you could sort of see where Salah and Nunez have been thinking and where their partnership is coming from. Small man, big man, if you want to call it that. It just really seems like two people up front. But Hakpo sort of nudged into that at times and didn't quite... Wolves actually sort of shadowed him out the game quite easily. And then you could kind of see like Liverpool shifted away from that 4-3-3, which is what a lot of people wish they would do at this point, into more like a 4-2-4. Although Thiago is so much deeper, Liverpool push a much higher line, and it basically pushes a lot of players downfield, like your Keita's, Elliott's, all these different subs that came on. They felt a little bit staggered, which didn't quite help the transition, but when Keita came on, you could see what he was trying to do. His close control was fantastic. And the same with Harvey Elliott, although Harvey Elliott, I think he suffered because they had Keita on, so Harvey Elliott plays more of a supporting role. And so within that, there's obviously frustration because Elliott just continually gets the ball off Trent, ends up going back to Matip, and then it's almost like a restart and all the players are in the wrong area at that point. You don't really want that. And it didn't really help Liverpool. You would hope there's a bit of close control there, a moment of brilliance, and there wasn't tonight for Liverpool. But again, really good signs. The opposite, of course, is also true. Liverpool without Van Dijk, I think, I kind of feel like Klopp will have watched that and been encouraged this evening. No? You can see what Matip's going for. You can see where Konate is going for. You can see sometimes Konate dives in, but that aggression really puts players on the back foot. Matip is probably the B-side of the two, weirdly, although he's probably coordinating a little bit more because Konate is obviously the younger one. And you can see Liverpool have kind of got that rotation. If I am the back line, Alisson's behind me, then you push either that way or that way, and Andy Robertson either drops deep, or sometimes Hendo drops deep, or whoever's on that side. And then sometimes now you can definitely see Trent Alexander-Arnold making the effort to get back. But I think instinctively, this Liverpool side still think to play other ways. And you can see at times they're kind of pushing it, and it could be better. It could be a little bit more tight. It could be a little bit, there are misplaced passes where someone should be somewhere. Sometimes it needs Thiago to pick up the ball, just let the side reset. And, there's positives in there is what I'm saying. But do Liverpool have that time? Can you afford to transition like this? Should this be the way that Liverpool transition into the new era? Should Liverpool be waiting on signing someone like Mateus, or if you want a Bellingham type, if you like, just someone who can put some more structure and drive into that midfield, or a bit more control, I think is what Liverpool are probably going to be looking for. Mateus came on and I thought he was great. I didn't think he was good defensively, but I thought in terms of going forward, he was. You could see what it was that he was trying to do. You could see, just the pure silk was amazing, which Liverpool fans worry when you lose Thiago, whether you lose a bit of class in the midfield. I know there's been a lot of talk over the last week about whether Liverpool really want Wijnaldum back, or like a Wijnaldum type, and how when they remove that. But I feel like they just need to transition this midfield completely into a new shape and type. It's not about intensity in the same way anymore at Liverpool. There's a different kind of intensity. The Huntington packs were there. You could see the shrewd kind of game management type tackles that Keita and Thiago and even Fabinho were trying to put in. And you could see there was a cynicism about that midfield that I sort of like, and is very unpleasant to play against. So there are still bits there where when people say the old Liverpool aren't there anymore, no, of course not. But there are huge markers as to what this side is and who this Liverpool side are. And every now and again, when they revive them, I don't get hope anymore. I just sort of go, okay, it's still there. The old things aren't the focus. It's what a new Liverpool are trying to implement. Like I said a couple of months ago, the old Liverpool is dead. Long live the king. So let me know in the comments below, what were your thoughts? Do you think tonight is a marker for Liverpool, something they can build off? Or do you think it's not great because they weren't playing a full strength Wolves side? They didn't exactly always look at it. And again, I hate the fact they come out, look great, something bad happens, then it all collapses. That shows a mentality that isn't quite there yet. Looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are. I've got some big Liverpool videos coming, but I'll chat to you guys in a little while. Much love. Bye. Oh, by the way, replay at Molineux. Exactly what Klopp doesn't want. Brilliant.